The ranch foreman's daughter arrived in San Pedro, California on a scorching afternoon in July 1882. And within an hour of stepping off the dusty stagecoach, Olivia Zimmerman had already identified 17 problems with how the local cattle operations were being run. She stood on the wooden sidewalk outside the general store, her traveling dress covered in a fine layer of dust, watching as drovers pushed a herd of bony longhorns down the main street. The cattle looked exhausted, their ribs showing despite the fact that summer grass should have fattened them considerably by now. Olivia's sharp green eyes tracked their movement, noting how they bunched together nervously, how the cowboys had to yell and wave their hats constantly just to keep the animals moving forward. "Those cattle are stressed half to death," she muttered to herself, reaching up to adjust the pins in her auburn hair. "Excuse me, miss." She turned to find a tall cowboy standing a respectful distance away, his hat in his hands. He had dark hair that curled slightly at his collar, and warm brown eyes that seemed genuinely curious rather than dismissive. Most men looked at her like she was an oddity when she talked about cattle, but this one appeared actually interested. "I said those cattle are stressed," Olivia repeated, gesturing toward the herd now disappearing around a corner. "You can tell by how they bunch together and resist forward movement. Stressed cattle lose weight, produce tougher meat, and are more prone to disease. It is inefficient." The cowboy's eyebrows rose slightly. "That is an interesting observation. I am Mitchell Drake, foreman of the Triple Bar Ranch just outside town. And you would be Olivia Zimmerman. My father was ranch foreman back in Texas before he passed. I have spent my entire life around cattle operations." "I am sorry about your father." Mitchell's condolences sounded genuine. "What brings you to San Pedro? My aunt lives here. She offered me a place to stay after my father died. The ranch owner in Texas had no use for a woman with opinions about cattle management, so here I am." Olivia tried to keep the bitterness from her voice but was not entirely successful. Mitchell studied her for a moment, and she braced herself for the usual platitudes about how ranch work was not suitable for ladies. Instead, he surprised her. "What would you do differently?" "With those cattle, I mean." Olivia blinked. "You actually want to know?" I asked, did I not? She looked at him carefully, trying to determine if he was mocking her. His expression seemed open and honest. "Well, for starters, they are being driven during the hottest part of the day. Cattle should be moved in early morning or evening when temperatures are cooler. They would resist less, maintain their weight better, and arrive at their destination in superior condition. It is simple animal behavior, but most ranchers are too set in their ways to consider changing their methods." Mitchell nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. "That makes considerable sense. What else?" For the next 20 minutes, Olivia found herself explaining her theories about rotational grazing, improved water distribution systems, and selective breeding practices, while Mitchell Drake listened with complete attention. It was the most remarkable conversation she had experienced since her father's death 6 months earlier. "Miss Zimmerman," Mitchell finally said, "I know this is highly irregular, but would you consider visiting the Triple Bar? I would very much like to hear more of your ideas, and perhaps you could evaluate our operation. We have been struggling with lower cattle weights and higher mortality rates than I would like. You want my opinion. Professionally, I do. I will pay you as a consultant if that makes it more proper. I can send a buggy tomorrow morning, and your aunt is welcome to accompany you as a chaperone." Olivia felt her heart race with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Mr. Drake, I accept your offer. However, I should warn you that I will be completely honest about what I observe, even if my recommendations require significant changes. I would expect nothing less." Mitchell's smile transformed his serious face into something warmer. "Until tomorrow morning, then, Miss Zimmerman." As Olivia watched him walk away toward the hitching post where a magnificent bay horse waited, she felt the first stirring of hope she had experienced in months. Perhaps San Pedro would offer her opportunities that Texas never could. Her Aunt Margaret was less enthusiastic when Olivia explained the arrangement over dinner that evening. The older woman, a widow who ran a successful boarding house, frowned over her chicken and dumplings. "Olivia, dear, you must be careful about your reputation." A young woman of 22 visiting a ranch alone with a man could cause talk. "He invited you to come along as a chaperone," Olivia reminded her, "which I will do, at least for the first visit. But really, consulting on ranch operations, what will people think?" "That I have a brain and intend to use it," Olivia replied firmly. "Aunt Margaret, I appreciate your concern, but I did not come all the way to California to sit quietly and embroider. I have knowledge that could genuinely help improve ranching practices, and if Mr. Drake is willing to listen, I intend to share it." Her aunt sighed but nodded. "You are very much like your father. He never could stand seeing something done poorly when he knew a better way. Just promise me you will be cautious. I do not know much about this Mitchell Drake fellow." "I promise to be perfectly proper," Olivia assured her, though internally she was already planning her assessment of the Triple Bar Ranch. The next morning dawned clear and hot. Mitchell arrived promptly at 8 o'clock driving a well-maintained buggy pulled by a matched pair of chestnuts. Aunt Margaret made a show of inspecting the vehicle and expressing her approval before allowing Olivia to climb aboard. The ride to the Triple Bar took 40 minutes, following a winding road that climbed into the brown hills surrounding San Pedro. Mitchell pointed out various landmarks and explained the ranch's history as they traveled. His grandfather had established the operation in 1855, running sheep initially before transitioning to cattle in the 1860s. The ranch now covered approximately 8,000 acres and ran around 1,500 head of cattle. "That is a significant operation," Olivia observed. "How many hands do you employ?" 20 during normal seasons, up to 30 during roundup and trailing. We also have a cook, a blacksmith, and a part-time veterinarian who visits from Los Angeles once a month." "Only once a month for a herd that size," Olivia frowned. "That seems insufficient." "It is all we can afford. Veterinary care is expensive and the owner, Mr. Harrison, keeps a tight budget." They crested a hill, and the ranch spread out before them. The main house was a sprawling adobe structure with a red tile roof, surrounded by several barns, corrals, and outbuildings. Beyond the immediate buildings, Olivia could see cattle scattered across the brown grasslands in small groups. Mitchell helped both women down from the buggy, and Aunt Margaret was immediately directed to the main house for refreshments, while Mitchell offered to show Olivia around the operational areas. "I want to see the water sources first," Olivia said. "Water distribution is critical to effective grazing management." Mitchell led her to the nearest water source, a natural spring that had been developed into a watering hole. Cattle had trampled the area around it into mud, and Olivia could see how the concentrated traffic had destroyed all vegetation for about 20 yards in every direction. "This is part of your problem," she said, kneeling to examine the muddy ground despite the damage to her skirt. "The cattle are concentrating around water sources, overgrazing nearby areas while distant pastures remain underutilized. You need multiple smaller watering points distributed throughout your range." "We only have a few natural springs," Mitchell pointed out. "Then you create additional water sources, windmills and storage tanks. Yes, There is initial investment, but the improved cattle health and better grass utilization would pay for it within 2 years. Olivia stood, brushing dirt from her hands. May I see your grazing areas? They spent the next 3 hours riding across various sections of the ranch on horses Mitchell saddled for them. Olivia filled a small notebook with observations and sketches, occasionally stopping to examine plants or cattle more closely. Mitchell followed along, asking questions and listening intently to her explanations. "You are overgrazing," Olivia finally announced as they paused on a hillside overlooking a large pasture. "You keep all your cattle in the same areas year-round, which means the grass never has a chance to recover. You need to divide your range into sections and rotate the herds through them. Graze an area intensively for a short period, then move the cattle and let that section rest and regrow." "How short a period?" "Depending on grass growth rates and herd size, probably 2 to 4 weeks per section. The key is to never let the cattle graze the same ground down to nothing. They take a bite, you move them, the grass recovers. It is basic plant biology, but ranchers treat their grass like it is an inexhaustible resource." Mitchell looked out over the land with new eyes. "It would require considerable fencing." "Yes, and planning and more active management. But your cattle would be healthier, your grass production would increase, and you could likely support more animals on the same acreage, or maintain your current numbers with less land degradation." Olivia turned to face him. "Mr. Drake, may I be completely frank?" "Please do." "This ranch is being run using methods that were already outdated 20 years ago. Your water distribution is poor, your grazing management is non-existent, and from what I observed of your cattle, your breeding program needs significant improvement. You are losing money through inefficiency." Instead of taking offense, Mitchell nodded thoughtfully. "I have suspected as much. Mr. Harrison inherited this ranch from his uncle 5 years ago. He lives in San Francisco and rarely visits. He cares only about the annual profit statements and refuses to invest in improvements. I have tried to convince him to modernize, but he insists on maintaining current operations." "Then you need to prove to him that changes would increase profits," Olivia said. "Would he be willing to experiment with a small portion of the ranch? If we could demonstrate improved results, he might authorize broader changes." Mitchell's eyes met hers, and Olivia felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with ranch management. "If you want my help, I am offering it. This is exactly the kind of challenge I have been hoping for." She hesitated, then added, "Though I do not expect you to pay me." "The opportunity to actually implement these ideas is compensation enough." "Absolutely not. Your expertise has value and you will be paid for it. How does $20 a month sound, plus expenses for any travel required?" Olivia tried not to let her shock show. $20 was a respectable wage, more than most women could earn. "That is very generous." "It is fair compensation for specialized knowledge," Mitchell corrected. "So we have an agreement." "We do." Olivia extended her hand and Mitchell shook it firmly. His hand was calloused and warm, and he held hers perhaps a moment longer than strictly necessary. They returned to the main house to collect Aunt Margaret, who had apparently spent a pleasant morning being fussed over by the ranch cook. On the ride back to San Pedro, Olivia's mind raced with plans and possibilities. For the first time since her father's death, she felt truly alive. Over the next 2 weeks, Olivia visited the Triple Bar every other day, always chaperoned by her aunt or one of the ranch hands. She walked every inch of the property, interviewed the cowboys about their practices, and examined the cattle in detail. Each evening, she returned to San Pedro and worked late into the night, drafting detailed plans and proposals. Mitchell was present for most of her visits, and Olivia found herself looking forward to their conversations as much as the actual ranch work. He was intelligent and open-minded, willing to consider new ideas even when they challenged his existing practices. He also had a dry sense of humor that emerged when he was comfortable, making Olivia laugh with wry observations about ranch life. "The boys think you are some kind of miracle worker," Mitchell told her one afternoon as they examined a section of damaged fencing. "Half of them are terrified you will catch them doing something wrong, and the other half want to impress you with how much they know about cattle." "And what do you think?" Olivia asked, keeping her tone light despite the sudden racing of her pulse. Mitchell was quiet for a moment, his hand still on the fence post he had been testing. "I think you are the most remarkable woman I have ever met. You have a gift for seeing solutions where others only see problems. And you are not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom, which takes considerable courage." Olivia felt heat rise in her cheeks that had nothing to do with the California sun. "Thank you. That means a great deal coming from you." "Why from me specifically?" "Because you actually listen. Most men hear me talk about ranching and either dismiss me outright or humor me like I am a child playing pretend. You treat my ideas with respect." "That is because your ideas are worthy of respect," Mitchell said simply. He met her eyes, and Olivia saw something there that made her breath catch. Before either of them could say more, one of the ranch hands called out that he needed Mitchell's help with a difficult horse. By the end of the second week, Olivia had completed her comprehensive assessment and recommendations. She presented them to Mitchell in the ranch office, a small building separate from the main house. Her proposal included detailed plans for installing 4 windmill and tank systems at strategic locations, dividing the ranch into 12 grazing sections with a rotation schedule, improving the breeding program by culling poor producers and acquiring superior bulls, and implementing a calendar of preventive health measures for the herd. "This is extraordinary work," Mitchell said, paging through her detailed drawings and calculations. "You have thought of everything." "I hope so. I know it represents significant investment, but I have calculated the projected returns based on improved cattle weights, reduced mortality, and better grass production. If we can get Mr. Harrison to approve even a pilot program on one section of the ranch, I am confident we can demonstrate the value. Then we will convince him. I am writing to him today." Mitchell looked up from the papers, his expression serious. "Olivia, I want you to know that regardless of whether Harrison approves this, working with you these past 2 weeks has been exceptional. You have changed how I think about ranching." "You have given me an opportunity I never thought I would have," Olivia replied softly. "I will always be grateful for that." The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken feelings. Finally, Mitchell cleared his throat. "I should get this letter written while everything is fresh in my mind. Will you be visiting again this week, if you would like me to?" "I would like that very much." Olivia left the Triple Bar that afternoon feeling like she was floating. It was not just the professional satisfaction of completing her proposal, though that was certainly part of it. It was the way Mitchell looked at her, the way he listened to her ideas, the way he seemed to see her as a complete person rather than just a woman who should be satisfied with domestic pursuits. She was falling in love with him, Olivia realized with a start. Somewhere between discussions of grass growth rates and water distribution systems, she had completely lost her heart to Mitchell Drake. The question was whether he felt the same way. Mr. Harrison's response arrived 3 weeks later. Mitchell came into San Pedro specifically to show Olivia the letter, finding her in the boarding house parlor where she had been helping her aunt with accounts. He approved a trial program, Mitchell said, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. 6 months, one section of the ranch with budget for one windmill system and basic fencing. If we show results, he will consider expanding the program ranch-wide. Olivia jumped to her feet, her heart pounding. That is wonderful news. When can we start? Immediately. I have already selected the section, about 600 acres on the northeast quarter. It has good grass potential but has been overgrazed. If we can rehabilitate it, that will be the most impressive demonstration. Smart thinking. We should begin with the windmill installation since that will take the longest. Olivia's mind was already racing through logistics. I was hoping you would agree to manage the project directly. I know that means spending considerably more time at the ranch. I would not want to be anywhere else. They spent the next hour planning the implementation schedule, their heads bent together over maps and diagrams spread across the parlor table. Aunt Margaret watched from her rocking chair with a knowing smile. The next 4 months transformed that section of the Triple Bar Ranch and also transformed the relationship between Olivia and Mitchell. They worked side by side nearly every day, their partnership deepening as they solved problems and celebrated small victories. The windmill installation was completed in late August, pumping cool water into a storage tank that could supply multiple drinking stations. Mitchell's crew built sturdy fences dividing the test section into 4 grazing areas. Olivia developed a detailed rotation schedule, and they moved the first group of cattle into the freshest pasture. "Now we wait and watch," Olivia said, standing beside Mitchell as they observed the cattle spreading out naturally across the area, no longer forced to concentrate around a single water source. "You know what you have created here," Mitchell said quietly. "Hope. The men are starting to believe things can actually improve. I am starting to believe it too. You never doubted the plan would work, did you? I doubted whether Harrison would give us a real chance, but you were so confident, so certain this was the right approach, that you made me believe too." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the cattle graze peacefully in the golden afternoon light. Finally, Mitchell turned to face her. "Olivia, these past months working with you have been the best of my life. You are brilliant and passionate, and you see possibilities where others see only limitations. I find myself thinking about you constantly, even when I should be focused on ranch work." Olivia's heart hammered in her chest. "I think about you too. Quite a lot, actually. I know I am just a ranch foreman without much to offer beyond hard work and big dreams. But if you think you could care for a man like me, I would very much like to court you properly." "Mitchell Drake, I already care for you more than I probably should given how short a time we have known each other. And you are wrong about having little to offer. You have an open mind, a generous spirit, and you treat me as an equal partner. Those qualities are far more valuable than money or social position." Mitchell's face broke into a brilliant smile. "Then may I call on you properly? Take you to dinner, go on walks, all the conventional courting activities. You may, though I hope we can still work together on the ranch project. That is when I feel most myself. I would not have it any other way." He took her hand gently, and even that simple touch sent warmth flooding through Olivia's entire body. This was what she had been searching for without knowing it. Someone who valued her mind as much as her company, who wanted her as a partner in every sense of the word. Their courtship over the next few months was unconventional by most standards. Yes, Mitchell came to Sunday dinners at the boarding house, and they attended the occasional social event in San Pedro, but mostly they spent time together at the ranch, working side by side on their experimental program. The results exceeded even Olivia's optimistic projections. The cattle in the test section gained weight noticeably faster than the main herd. Their coats looked healthier, and the veterinarian on his monthly visit commented that he had never seen the animals in such good condition. Even more impressive, the grass in areas they had grazed and then rested showed vigorous regrowth, while the continuously grazed sections of the main ranch continued to deteriorate. By December, Mitchell had compiled comprehensive data documenting the improvements. He wrote to Mr. Harrison requesting a meeting to present the results and discuss expanding the program. To their surprise, Harrison replied that he would visit the ranch in January. "He never comes here," Mitchell said, staring at the telegram in disbelief. "In 5 years, he has visited exactly twice." "Then we must assume our results have captured his attention," Olivia replied. "We will prepare the most convincing presentation possible." They spent the next month gathering evidence, preparing charts and calculations, and grooming the test section to look its absolute best. Mitchell's ranch hands caught the enthusiasm, taking extra care with every detail. Everyone on the triple bar had come to believe in Olivia's methods, and they wanted to prove to the absentee owner that change was both necessary and profitable. Mr. Harrison arrived on a cold January morning in 1883, 6 months after Olivia had first visited the ranch. He was a portly man in his 50s, dressed in an expensive suit more appropriate for San Francisco than a working ranch. He regarded Olivia with obvious skepticism when Mitchell introduced her. "So you are the young woman who has been filling my foreman's head with radical ideas about ranching," Harrison said, his tone making it unclear whether this was a compliment or criticism. "I am the consultant who has been implementing modern range management practices based on scientific principles and proven results," Olivia replied evenly. She refused to be intimidated. Harrison's eyebrows rose. "Well, you certainly speak confidently." "The results speak even more confidently," Mitchell interjected smoothly. "If you would like to see the test section, I think you will be impressed." They spent the next 3 hours touring the ranch. Harrison asked sharp questions, examined the cattle closely, and studied every detail of the improvements. Olivia explained the principles behind each practice, supporting her claims with data they had carefully collected. Finally, standing beside the windmill watching water pour into the tank, Harrison turned to them both. "I will be honest. When Mitchell first wrote to me about this experimental program, I thought it was a waste of money. I approved it primarily because he has been a reliable foreman, and I felt I owed him the chance to try. I expected modest results at best." Olivia held her breath. "What I am seeing exceeds my expectations significantly. The cattle are clearly in superior condition. The grass management approach makes logical sense, and according to these figures, the animals in this section will command premium prices because of their improved weight and health." Harrison paused. "How much would it cost to implement this program ranch-wide?" Mitchell and Olivia exchanged quick glances. They had prepared for this question. "Initial investment of approximately $1,200 for additional windmills, fencing, and equipment," Mitchell said. "But we project that investment would be recovered through improved cattle sales within 18 months, with ongoing increased profitability thereafter. And you would manage this expansion, Miss Zimmerman?" "If you wish me to, yes. I would need to visit the ranch regularly and continue working with Mr. Drake and his crew." Harrison studied her thoughtfully. "You are an unusual young woman. I have been managing business interests for 30 years, and I have never met a female ranch consultant before." "Perhaps that is because most men do not give women the opportunity to demonstrate their capabilities," Olivia replied. "Mr. Drake was willing to listen to my ideas rather than dismiss them because of my gender. The results validate his open-minded approach. Indeed they do." Harrison turned to Mitchell. "I am authorizing the ranch-wide implementation. Draw up a detailed plan and budget, and I will approve the expenditure. Miss Zimmerman, I am increasing your consulting fee to $35 per month and offering you a bonus of $200 when the full program is operational." Olivia felt dizzy with joy and triumph. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison. You will not regret this decision. See that I do not." But Harrison was smiling slightly. "Mitchell, a word in private." The two men walked a short distance away, conferring in low voices. Olivia could not hear what they were saying, but she saw Mitchell's expression shift from serious to surprised to pleased. When they returned, Mitchell looked slightly stunned. "Mr. Harrison has made me a very generous offer. He is promoting me from foreman to ranch manager with a significant salary increase and a percentage of profits." "That is wonderful," Olivia exclaimed. "There is one condition," Harrison said, looking between them. "Mitchell has explained to me that you two have formed an attachment. He asked for my blessing to propose marriage to you, Miss Zimmerman." Olivia's breath caught. She looked at Mitchell, whose face had turned slightly red. "I had planned to do this more romantically," Mitchell said, stepping closer to her. "But since Mr. Harrison has rather ruined the surprise, I might as well proceed." He took her hand. "Olivia, I love you. I love your brilliant mind and your determination and the way you refuse to accept limitations. I want to spend my life working beside you, building something remarkable together. Will you marry me?" Tears sprang to Olivia's eyes. "Yes, absolutely yes." Mitchell pulled her into his arms right there in front of Mr. Harrison and any ranch hands who might be watching. He kissed her soundly, and Olivia kissed him back with all the love and passion that had been building in her heart for months. When they finally broke apart, Harrison was chuckling. "Well, that settles that. I will leave you two to your planning. Mitchell, send me those budget details within the month." He tipped his hat to Olivia. "Miss Zimmerman, I look forward to seeing what other innovations you bring to the Triple Bar." After Harrison departed, Mitchell and Olivia stood together beside the windmill, its blades turning steadily in the breeze. "I cannot believe this is happening," Olivia said. 6 months ago, I thought my life was over. Now I have meaningful work, recognition for my ideas, and I am marrying the man I love." "We are going to do great things together," Mitchell promised. "This ranch is going to become a model for modern range management, and we will build a life that is ours, a true partnership." "When should we marry?" "As soon as you wish. Tomorrow would not be too soon for me," Olivia laughed. "Let us give my aunt at least a month to plan something proper. Would March suit you?" "March is perfect." They married on a sunny March afternoon in 1883 at the small church in San Pedro, surrounded by Aunt Margaret, the Triple Bar ranch hands, and a surprising number of townspeople who had heard about the unconventional woman who was changing ranching practices. Olivia wore a simple but elegant ivory dress, and Mitchell looked impossibly handsome in his Sunday best. The ranch hands had prepared a celebration back at the Triple Bar, with tables of food and a cleared barn for dancing. As Olivia waltzed with her new husband under strings of lanterns, she felt overwhelmingly grateful for the chain of events that had brought her here. "Happy, Mrs. Drake," Mitchell murmured near her ear. "Extraordinarily happy. Though I hope you will not mind that I plan to keep working on ranch improvements. I would be disappointed if you did not. You are not just my wife, Olivia. You are my partner in every sense." The ranch-wide implementation of Olivia's innovations took 8 months of intensive work. They installed 4 additional windmill systems, erected miles of fencing to create a comprehensive rotation system, and restructured the entire operation around her grazing management principles. Olivia also revolutionized the ranch's breeding program, convincing Harrison to invest in 3 premium bulls and implementing strict selection criteria for which cows would be bred. The ranch hands, initially skeptical of taking orders from a woman, came to respect Olivia's expertise and clear thinking. She treated them with courtesy and listened to their practical insights, incorporating their field experience into her plans. Mitchell backed her completely, making it clear that she spoke with his full authority. By early 1884, the Triple Bar Ranch was producing the finest cattle in the region. Their animals commanded premium prices at market, and other ranchers began visiting to observe their practices. Some scoffed at the idea of learning from a woman, but the undeniable results spoke for themselves. Olivia began receiving consultation requests from other ranches, though she was selective about which projects she accepted. She preferred operations where owners were genuinely committed to improvement rather than those just seeking a quick solution. In May of 1884, she realized she was pregnant. Mitchell was overjoyed, though he immediately became protective and worried about her continuing ranch work. "I am expecting a baby, not suffering from a terminal illness," Olivia told him firmly. "I will adjust my activities as necessary, but I am not becoming an invalid." "I just worry about you," Mitchell said, his hand resting gently on her still flat stomach. "I know, and I love you for it. But you married a woman with a career, remember. That does not change just because we are having a child." She continued working through most of her pregnancy, though she did reduce her physical activities in the final months. Their son was born in January 1885, a healthy baby boy they named Marcus Daniel Drake. Olivia was back at ranch work within 6 weeks, often bringing the baby along in a specially designed carrier that allowed her to keep him close while still having her hands free. "You are going to raise the only baby in California who knows about rotational grazing before he can walk," Mitchell teased. "He will have a practical education," Olivia agreed, smiling down at her son. "And he will know that both his parents value work and partnership." The years that followed were full and rewarding. The Triple Bar continued to thrive, becoming recognized throughout California as an innovative and profitable operation. Mr. Harrison was so pleased with the results that he gave Mitchell and Olivia a 5% ownership stake in the ranch, making them partners in truth as well as in practice. Other ranchers began slowly adopting Olivia's methods, though many remained stubbornly attached to traditional practices. She wrote several articles for agricultural journals, sharing her knowledge widely despite some editors' reluctance to publish work by a woman. Mitchell helped her establish credibility by co-authoring some pieces and speaking at Cattlemen's Association meetings about their results. In 1887, they had a daughter, Emma Rose Drake. Unlike her mother, Emma showed no interest in ranching, preferring books and music. Olivia encouraged her daughter's passions rather than trying to force her into a particular path, determined that Emma would have the freedom to choose her own direction in life. Marcus, however, followed his mother everywhere from the time he could walk, fascinated by the cattle and the land. By age 5, he could explain the basics of rotational grazing to visitors, much to everyone's amusement. In 1889, a representative from the California Department of Agriculture visited the Triple Bar, having heard about their innovative practices. After 2 days of observation and discussion, he offered Olivia a position as a special consultant to help develop best practices recommendations for ranchers throughout the state. "This is an incredible opportunity," Mitchell said when she told him about the offer. "You could influence ranching practices across all of California." "It would require considerable travel," Olivia said hesitantly. "Time away from you and the children. We will manage. Olivia, you have worked too hard and overcome too many obstacles to turn down a chance like this. Your ideas deserve the widest possible audience. You really would not mind. Mitchell pulled her into his arms. I am so proud of you I could burst. You need to do this. She accepted the position, beginning a new phase of her career that took her to ranches throughout the state. Mitchell managed the triple bar operations in her absence, and they maintained their partnership through detailed correspondence and planning sessions when she was home. It was challenging to balance her professional work with family responsibilities, but Mitchell shared domestic duties without complaint, and Aunt Margaret helped with the children. By 1892, Olivia's methods had been adopted by dozens of California ranches, with measurable improvements in cattle health, weight gains, and profitability throughout the industry. She had proven that scientific range management was not just theoretical but practical and profitable. In 1893, Mitchell received word that Mr. Harrison had died unexpectedly in San Francisco. His will left the Triple Bar Ranch entirely to Mitchell and Olivia, in recognition of how they had transformed it into one of California's most successful cattle operations. We own the ranch, Mitchell said, still stunned as he read the legal documents. Harrison left us everything. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. He believed in us. Even when we were just starting, he gave us a chance. We will honor his faith in us by continuing to make the Triple Bar the best ranch in California. They expanded the operation over the next several years, purchasing adjacent land and implementing Olivia's practices from the start. The ranch became a training ground where young ranchers could learn modern methods, with Marcus increasingly involved in day-to-day operations as he grew older. In 1897, Olivia was invited to speak at a national agricultural conference in Chicago, the first woman ever asked to address the organization. She was terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. I am not sure I can do this, she admitted to Mitchell the night before her departure. Speaking to a few ranchers in California is one thing, but addressing hundreds of the country's agricultural leaders is quite another. You absolutely can do this, Mitchell said firmly. You have 15 years of proven results. You have transformed ranching in California. Your ideas work, and you have every right to share them with the world. His confidence bolstered her courage. She traveled to Chicago and delivered her presentation on rotational grazing and sustainable range management to an auditorium full of skeptical men. She had expected dismissal or hostility, but the data was undeniable, and her passion and expertise eventually won over even the doubters. The speech changed everything. Suddenly, Olivia Zimmerman Drake was nationally recognized as a leading expert in modern ranching practices. Requests for consultation and speaking engagements flooded in from across the country. She was selective about what she accepted, preferring to focus her energy on projects where she could make the greatest impact. Mitchell continued running the Triple Bar with Marcus, who at age 12 was already showing remarkable aptitude for ranch management. Emma, now 10, had become an accomplished pianist and talked about perhaps teaching music someday. Olivia was proud that her children were developing their own identities and passions. In 1900, the family celebrated as Marcus turned 15 and took on more significant responsibilities at the ranch. Mitchell was 43, Olivia was 40, and they had been married 17 years. The Triple Bar was thriving. They had raised 2 wonderful children, and Olivia's work had influenced ranching practices across multiple states. One evening, sitting together on the porch of their ranch house watching the sunset paint the hills gold and orange, Mitchell took Olivia's hand. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. The life we built is unconventional. You could have had a more traditional existence." "Never," Olivia said immediately. "Not for a single moment. You gave me the chance to be fully myself, to use my knowledge and abilities without limitation. We built something remarkable together, a true partnership. I would not change anything." "I fell in love with you that very first day," Mitchell admitted. "Standing on the sidewalk in San Pedro, listening to you analyze cattle stress with such passion and intelligence. I thought you were the most fascinating person I had ever met." "I fell in love with you because you listened," Olivia replied. "You treated my ideas with respect when every other man had dismissed them. You saw me as a complete person, not just a woman who should be satisfied with a domestic role." "We have been very fortunate. We have been very determined," Olivia corrected. "We fought for this life, for the right to be partners in every sense. It was not always easy, but it was always worth it." They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, watching the sky deepen to purple. The sound of cattle lowing in the distance mixed with the creak of the windmill they had installed so many years ago, the first concrete sign that Olivia's ideas could work in practice. In 1902, Marcus married a young woman named Sarah from a neighboring ranch. She had grown up working cattle with her father and shared Marcus's passion for ranching. Olivia was delighted to welcome a daughter-in-law who understood and appreciated the work that went into maintaining a successful operation. Mitchell officially made Marcus a full partner in the Triple Bar, though he remained actively involved in ranch management. At 65, he was still strong and capable, and he loved the work too much to fully retire. Emma went to San Francisco to study music at a conservatory, writing long letters home about her classes and performances. She eventually married a music professor and settled in the city, though she visited the ranch regularly with her husband. In 1905, Marcus and Sarah presented Olivia and Mitchell with their first grandchild, a baby girl they named Olivia after her grandmother. Holding her tiny namesake, Olivia marveled at how far she had come from that dusty afternoon in 1882, when she had arrived in San Pedro with nothing but her knowledge and determination. "What are you thinking about?" Mitchell asked, watching her cradle their granddaughter. "How different my life could have been if you had not been willing to listen to a woman with unconventional ideas, if you had dismissed me like so many others did. I thank fortune every day that I had the good sense to recognize brilliance when I encountered it," Mitchell replied. "You changed my life, Olivia. You changed ranching in California. You changed what people thought was possible." "We did it together," she reminded him. "I had the ideas, but you had the courage to try them and the authority to implement them. We were partners from the start." As the years continued, the Triple Bar Ranch remained a testament to the power of innovation and partnership. Olivia reduced her consulting work gradually, preferring to spend time with Mitchell, their children, and their growing number of grandchildren. But she never fully retired, always available to advise ranchers who sought her expertise. In 1910, at age 50, Olivia was honored by the California Cattlemen's Association with a Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing her contributions to modernizing the industry. Mitchell stood beside her as she accepted the honor, his pride evident in every line of his weathered face. "When I started this work," Olivia said in her acceptance speech, "I was told repeatedly that ranching was no place for a woman, that my ideas were too radical, that tradition should not be questioned. I was extraordinarily fortunate to meet a man who believed that good ideas should be evaluated on their merit, rather than the gender of the person proposing them. Together, we proved that innovation and tradition can coexist, that questioning old methods can lead to better results, and that true partnership creates outcomes neither person could achieve alone." The room erupted in applause, and Olivia saw tears on the cheeks of several young women in attendance, women who were fighting their own battles to be taken seriously in male-dominated fields. Mitchell and Olivia continued working together into their 60s and 70s, their partnership as strong as ever. They had built not just a successful ranch, but a legacy of innovation and respect that influenced generations of ranchers. The Triple Bar remained one of California's premier cattle operations, and their children and grandchildren carried forward the values of science-based management and sustainable practices. In the quiet moments, sitting together watching the sunset or walking through pastures where healthy cattle grazed on lush grass that had been carefully managed according to principles Olivia had championed for decades, they reflected on the remarkable journey they had shared. "We changed things," Mitchell would say. "We did," Olivia would agree. Together. Their love story was unconventional, built on mutual respect, shared passion for their work, and absolute commitment to treating each other as equal partners. It was a love that had transformed not just their own lives but an entire industry, proving that when people are willing to listen to good ideas regardless of their source, and when partners support each other's dreams without limitation, remarkable things become possible. The little girl who had arrived in San Pedro in 1882, with nothing but her knowledge and determination, had found not just a career but a true partner, not just success but profound happiness. And the cowboy who had been willing to listen had gained not just a wife but a brilliant collaborator who made him better than he ever could have been alone. Together, they had proved that love and partnership could create something far greater than either person could achieve individually. They had built a life of purpose, passion, and deep mutual respect that would influence California ranching for generations to come. In 1920, Mitchell Drake passed away peacefully at age 83, surrounded by his family at the ranch he had loved and helped transform. Olivia held his hand as he drew his final breaths, grateful for every moment of their nearly 4 decades together. "Thank you for listening," she whispered to him. "Thank you for seeing me." He smiled, squeezed her hand one last time, and was gone. Olivia lived another 8 years, remaining mentally sharp and actively interested in ranch operations until the end. She died in 1928 at age 68, surrounded by her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Her last words were reportedly, "The grass needs rotation," making everyone laugh through their tears. Marcus and Sarah continued operating the Triple Bar according to the principles Olivia and Mitchell had established, and the ranch remained in the Drake family for generations. The methods Olivia had pioneered became standard practice throughout Western ranching, though many who used them never knew they had originated with a determined woman who had refused to accept that her gender should limit her contributions. But those who had known Olivia and Mitchell Drake remembered. They remembered the partnership that had changed an industry, the love story that had proved mutual respect and shared dreams could create something extraordinary, and the courage it had taken to challenge convention and prove that good ideas should be judged on their merit rather than the identity of the person proposing them. The windmills still turned at the Triple Bar Ranch, pumping water to strategically placed tanks that allowed cattle to graze across well-managed pastures. The grass grew thick and healthy in the carefully rotated sections. And every generation of Drakes who worked the land remembered the story of their remarkable ancestor who had ideas that changed how ranching worked, and the cowboy who had listened and helped her try them, and together had built something that lasted far beyond their own lifetimes. Their legacy was not just in improved ranching practices or a successful operation. but in the proof that love built on respect, partnership, and mutual support could change the world. They had shown that when two people truly see and value each other, when they work together towards shared goals while supporting each other's individual dreams, they can achieve things that seem impossible to others. That was the real story of Olivia Zimmerman and Mitchell Drake, a love story that happened to change an industry, a partnership that transformed not just how cattle were raised, but what people thought was possible when they were willing to listen to good ideas regardless of where they came from. And on quiet evenings at the Triple Bar Ranch, when the California sun set gold and orange over the hills, and the windmills turned steadily in the breeze, those who knew the story could almost see them there. The brilliant woman with the revolutionary ideas and the cowboy who had been wise enough to listen. Walking together across land they had transformed through love, respect, and absolute partnership. Their story lived on not just in family memory, but in every successfully managed ranch that used rotational grazing, in every windmill that distributed water efficiently across the range, in every person who insisted that good ideas should be evaluated on merit rather than the identity of who proposed them. Olivia and Mitchell Drake had built something that lasted, a legacy of innovation and partnership and love that influenced the world for generations after they were gone. And that, perhaps more than any other achievement, was the greatest testament to what two people could accomplish when they truly worked together, when they loved each other not despite their unconventional path but because of it, and when they refused to let society's expectations limit what they could become together. The ranch they had built together, the family they had raised, the industry they had changed, all stood as monuments to a love story that was about so much more than romance. It was about respect and partnership, and the revolutionary idea that two people working together as true equals could change the world. And they had. One carefully managed pasture, one innovative practice, one act of listening and respect at a time, they had changed everything. Not just for themselves, but for everyone who came after, everyone who benefited from the proof that when people are willing to challenge convention and support each other's dreams without reservation, truly extraordinary things become possible. That was the legacy of Olivia and Mitchell Drake, a love story that transformed an industry, a partnership that changed what people thought possible, and a testament to the power of mutual respect, shared dreams, and absolute commitment to building something remarkable together.